Have you ever had an encounter with a slumlord? My name is Isa Masharbish, and welcome to a special episode of the Defy All Odds podcast, where today we are meeting with special people, Anna and Anna, one end and two ends. And today's going to be great because we're going to dive into an incredible topic of slumlords and the impact they're having, the negative impact they have on countless families who have no advocates to stand up for them. And today we're going to expose their dirty little secrets thanks to our special guest today.
I remember there was a time that, they were burning buildings down because they couldn't get the tenants out. I remember my dad telling me one of his friends died in one of those fires.
The plumbing in my unit just went out. When I reached out to the landlord, they were like, we'll send somebody over. Never came. Christmas time comes. I've got no toilet. I've got no sink. I've got no shower access.
Why? So why is a slumlord doing this? They want to get everybody out. They're paying low rents because they're protected. They're employing all these illegal tactics, but they're getting away with it. And that's what you two are trying to end.
And it's not saying hey, we're against money, we're against landlords, we're against building wealth. It's none of those things, because I think those things are great and should happen in the right way.
Welcome to the Defy All Odds podcast. Okay, guys, so I am with Anna Bassett and Anna Cologne, who are the co-founders of a newly formed organization, the Fair Housing Action Network. I love that. Fair Housing Action Network. I love the word action because a lot of people have good ideas, but we lack action. Government officials that I know you're talking to on the daily have good ideas, but they kind of lack action. And so we are mobilizing together to encourage action through the Fair Housing Action Network. Thank you, guys. I just want to be clear for the audience. I am 1,000% pro landlord, good landlords. Why? Because I'm an investor. I help a lot of people become landlords through Provident Legacy Real Estate, my profession, through all the agents represented at Provident Legacy. We love landlords. We love great landlords, but we hate slumlords. Yeah. So let me define what a slumlord is. A slumlord is a criminal that hasn't been caught yet because they operate in the shadows of the law. They have become masters at the loopholes. And today, thanks to this special episode, we're going to expose the slumlords. Are you guys ready?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
All right. So I'm with Anna Bassett. We're going to start with you, Anna. Anna, before purchasing a home that you own, you had an insane story as a tenant. I call it the dead fish story. You gotta hear this story, the dead fish story, because I want you to remember this. I couldn't believe that this happened. When I heard about your story, when it was happening live, I could not fathom the evil with this story. And Anna, I know you worked with Anna through this and witnessed it and lived through it. We're going to get to you in a minute, but Anna Bassett, tell us about your experience. We're going to start there. All of this happened before the launch of this incredible action network. Let's start with your personal story there.
Yeah. So I lived in Jersey City for approximately 20 years. I go to church there. I graduated college there. I love Jersey City. It's a very, very deep part of me, and it still remains to be. And I lived in a rent-controlled building. And ultimately, that building I lived there for approximately 15 years. And it was around the last year that building was sold that we ran into a slumlord. And little did we know that there was a higher scheme that this actor was engaged in. And the way it started was before the building was even sold, we knew that it was for sale. And so people would come and show up at our doors, and they would just kind of like appear out of nowhere. They'd be lurking in the hallways and trying to find out information about the building. But there was one particular guy who came around. He would catch us in the basement, taking out our trash. He would be standing there with a notepad, asking us questions about the health status of the elderly people in the building. He would introduce himself as management. We didn't really know where he was from. He could have been present management for all we knew. And so he'd come around a number of times and was just asking us all kinds of questions. And it was at one point where he was like, so how much do you pay for rent? And so that's when I knew. I'm like, yeah, you should know that if you're management.
Yeah.
So that's when we knew that this guy was nefarious. And so that was when I knew that it was not
someone
normal.
who doesn't know you're right. Not
Right.
property
Like, this isn't
management.
my
Because they would have known that,
Yeah,
right?
they would have known that.
So right off the bat, I just was like, all right,
That's kind of weird. That's kind of like creepy. Somebody taking notes in front of your house.
He came
In the
around.
basement?
Oh, he came around to the point where I'm like, oh my God, this guy's here again. Because he wanted to come in our apartments and he wanted to inspect. So he would knock on the door, management, I'm here for an inspection. And we're like, who are you?
And at this time, they weren't even the owner yet, right?
No, not even the owner yet. But we didn't know. We were just like, we knew that we didn't have to let people in without notice, but we didn't know our rights in full. Anyway, fast forward, let's just say maybe 3 months of that behavior. And then one day he shows up with a paper and says, hey, we own the building, start paying your rents here. My name's Simon. And that's it. If you have any questions, here's the information on this paper. So now we knew, okay, the building must have been sold, whatever, like we understood that transaction. And so we started going through the process of paying our rent to this new entity. And it was almost immediate. The activity started. At first, it started like basic stuff. We need to come into your building. Are you going to be here tomorrow? I mean, your unit, are you going to be here tomorrow? And each of us have different schedules. Like, can we get a notice, like a proper notice? Okay. Then the next thing we know, our superintendent just kind of like stops coming around. Trash is piling up. And we're like, hey, my neighbors have reached out trying to find out, hey, what's going on with the trash? Oh, we're looking for a new super. We'll let you know once we get one. So we start, maintaining that. Okay, not ideal. And then as this is happening, now they're pursuing evictions for different tenants. They're putting notices to quits on our different doors. Oh, you're not letting us in. We're gonna, this is your notice to quit. So that started happening like back to back to back to the point where it was just like, if it wasn't one thing, then it was something else. And so that was we're approaching November-ish. I remember because I remember being at a funeral this particular day where the plumbing in my unit just went out. A handle in my shower broke in such a way where the water was pouring out of it, and we couldn't get the plumbing to stop. Like, we had to actually turn the water off at the valve. And when I reached out to the landlord, they were like, oh, we'll send somebody over. Never came. Then reached out again, never came. I reached out a handful of times to the point where I had to go to the city inspector. SeeClickFix.com is what Jersey City uses. Filled that information out. They came by, documented the whole process. They said, hey, the conditions exist. They notified the landlord. I'm assuming they issued a violation to their LLC.
To their LLC.
Yeah, there's that. That part. That's where it all happens. And then it dies. That's where you hide. You issue the LLC and then they either come or they don't. But nonetheless, now we're talking they're calling the management company the number on file, but then they're issuing the tickets to the property owner LLC, which is a whole different stream of communication and accountability, we'll call it. So then the landlord completely neglects his responsibility there. So Christmas time comes. I've got no toilet. I've got no sink. I've got no shower access. So then I'm like, all right, I have my family. So I rented an Airbnb just for that weekend, just to like deal. It's the holidays. And so that was where it started getting more expensive, where I was like, okay, to get through certain hurdles, I would, rent an Airbnb. But then turn of the year, then we start experiencing what we thought was like a one-off break-in. But then from that break-in and that call from the police, they identified that there was hidden cameras in the hallways. Like, they had installed actual, like, it looks like a fire, what is it called? a fire alarm,
Yeah.
but it's really a camera and it's faced in certain positions. So they discovered that, Jersey City Police.
Wow.
And so we're like, all right, well, the
They're
jig is
watching
up.
it.
Yeah, they're watching us. The
They're-
jig is up. Give us the footage of the break-in that just happened. There's another like weird thing is that the locks were glued. We observed management come in that day. We knew the guy was around. And then I remember I was on my way to church. It was a Tuesday night. I walked out the door. I'm like, what's going on with the locks? I looked at it. I'm like, why does it look like it's got glue on it? And it was like glued shut. Like the latch was literally glued inward. And I told my neighbors, sent the message to everybody like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I got to run. But this is a thing. I left while I was at church. Sure enough, break-in. And so we asked the landlord for the footage. They would not give it to us. They just were like, and it wasn't the landlord. It was the management company that we were communicating with this whole time. This particular actor.
They broke into your apartment.
No,
It was the one
Whose apartment?
Yeah.
So they broke into the main doorway. And we don't know what they were going to do because my neighbor was taking the trash down at that time. And so she saw 5 men or 5 people. We don't know who they are. 5 individuals go into the basement and then somehow mysteriously ran out the back door, which is a really old, weird door that you have to know how the locks work in order to get out. It seemed to have already been open from her report, but they were stopped.
Yeah.
They didn't get to do whatever it was. And that's where it got even more frightening. It's like the psychological warfare because then you're like, what were they going to do? Were they going to set the building on fire? Like, what were they going to do? These people clearly are willing.
We'll get to fire later, but we get to your story. Wow.
In terms of the whole dead fish thing, I remember that day she called me and she was like, I don't know what's going on. It smells so bad here.
The break-in started happening. And during that time, I had obtained an attorney because of my habitability issue because they weren't responding to it. So now the city's issuing them all kinds of citations for this issue. They're not addressing it. Now we don't have a superintendent. Now the building starts smelling crazy. Like my neighbors were like, yo, is it the issue in the basement? Like what's going on here? So we're smelling this horrendous odor. And simultaneously, they're evicting another tenant. Well, they're evicting a tenant that lived up above me. And she's going through her whole hoopla. I didn't know what I know now. Otherwise, I would have jumped all over that and made sure that she was protected. But she was going through her issue. And
I remember that. I remember you saying that they offered her money and she left, but they never gave her the money, right?
Well, they got her all the way to court. And she found an attorney, I think the day of her court date. This is what she shared. She had no representation. And so that attorney was able to get a settlement in housing court at the superior level. And so the settlement was that an eviction would not be on her record and they would pay her basically hand the keys out and hand over the keys. Yeah. We'll pay you whatever. She moves out. They don't give her anything. They don't give her the agreement, the settlement agreement, and they don't give her a security deposit back. She just basically voluntarily left her home.
That is unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't have a strong attorney to go after them.
She had no attorney.
And sometimes the amount of money you're going after is just not worth hiring an attorney for. And so these guys get away with murder. Without
going too far down the rabbit hole, that's one of the things that we see with Fair Housing Action Network is when you look at the eviction records, you see, it breaks my heart actually, because you can look up these records publicly and you can see the ones where the tenants go after the landlords because it's read a certain way. It's the LLC versus the tenant, or you see it the other way around. Yeah. You see the tenant's name first versus whomever, and you open it up and every single time it's this handwritten like thing about everything that's been going on. And it's almost like you can feel their heart in what they're writing because there's no lawyer. It's just them. It's the only avenue they have to get their security deposit back. And it's the same story over and over.
Now, I know we're not done with your story yet, but like you're telling me you're helping other people now with these situations. So those that are experiencing like difficult slumlord problems,
Yeah.
you could guide them. You guys could guide them,
Yeah.
instruct them on what to do, take notes, document, et cetera, et cetera. But back to your story, you get to the part where it stinks. Because is that the dead fish?
I'll get you to the dead fish. Okay.
I remember that day.
I know, it was pretty out of control. So building is smelling like craziness, and all these things are happening all at once. And so my neighbors starts messaging the landlord, hey, this thing is going on. It smells. We know you were here. We saw you go into this unit. You know, can you get, like, what is going on? We've cleaned everything. We've bleached everything down. So the landlord responds back, or the management company, whichever. They're both the same. But he's like, oh yeah, we'll send somebody to check it out. Doesn't do anything. So then fast forward, they're now active.
These are tactics to get you to get sick enough to just leave.
Yeah.
And this is actively happening while I had no plumbing.
Can you imagine the smell of dead fish in the apartment next door impacting the entire building?
The landlord was actively trying to get possession of that unit. So they tried to take him to eviction court. They weren't able to evict him, but they were able to get, access, like the keys to just have access to it. So that's what they used to plant the first round of dead fish. First round, they did it twice. It was somebody's apartment. Yeah. So there wasn't anything unplugged. The refrigerator was clear. There was no food in it. He had opened an actively working refrigerator and left it open and just sat one big old pile of fish in there. That was the first unit. So they actively did one. And then the following day, they sent this worker to change the locks or whatever. And us, the tenants, were like, we're on high alert. We're frightened. We're nervous. Like, we don't know what the heck is going on. And the guy goes into the upstairs apartment on the third floor, and we start smelling the smell again. And we're like, what is going on? And all to find out that they had done it in that apartment too. So it wasn't like, this was just like a one-time deal. Like, they were actively doing this on different days, different times.
This is like
psychological warfare.
Psychological warfare. It is premeditated. Why? So why is the slumlord doing this? They're doing this because of they want to get everybody out. They're paying low rents because they're protected, and they want to get market rents. If they could get you out, they could start charging market rents, which is double or triple what they're getting right now. And so they're employing all these illegal tactics, but they're getting away with it.
They are.
And that's the problem.
They are.
They're getting away with it. And that's what you two are trying to end.
Yeah.
You're trying to consult with government officials. You're trying to talk to the local government, municipalities, to pay attention to this, to watch this, to see this, and do something about it, right?
This is also key. While the landlord was actively ignoring repairs and doing all of the other criminal activity, they were actively applying for a hardship application through the city's landlord tenant office, or I should say the rent control board, the rent control office. And so what that is a pathway for an owner of a rent controlled building to essentially say, hey, I can't afford this building. I can't sustain it. And so therefore, can you just rule that the rents be increased? Just rule, and I will show you why I am in hardship. And they lay out all their documentation to the city, and then they go before the rent leveling board, and the rent leveling board reviews it and says yes or no. And so they are engaged in harassing us out of our homes while actively applying to get, city privileges through this hardship application and using different identities to do so.
Let me ask you, did the city ever give them any breaks?
After a lot of battle and a lot of fighting, they've denied it. But this took...
Good. I'm glad. Yeah. Great job, Jersey City. Finally.
It took, but when I tell you, had it not been for, and I'm going to do a little shameless plug, had it not been for the waterfront project, we probably would have been displaced by now. Because the city was not able to review the harassment that was going on within the scope of the hardship application.
Yeah.
They kept trying to silo off if they are harassing you, go deal with it over there. Oh, this hardship is just focus on the hardship. Hey, if there's maintenance issues, you go deal with it over there. Hey, if and it just like they kept everything separate.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest issue. They keep separating everything. They're not looking at everything in one picture.
Holistically, yeah.
Because for me,
That's
again,
fragmented government.
Exactly.
When one department doesn't know what the other department is doing.
Exactly.
So you're fooling everybody.
Exactly. So I think just like how you started off, right? Like I love landlords. I think landlords are needed. I think, development is needed. All those things are great for the health of a city. But I also believe that affordable housing is needed. And I believe that we need to sustain rent control buildings. So when we see things like this, there's a pathway. If someone, buys a rent control building, okay, here are your options. There's a hardship, right? That's allowed. There's this allowed. I'm not against it. I think that's fine. What I'm against is you doing all these other things. And so now you start to try to separate these things. That's an issue. Like if we're gonna allow a landlord to fill out that hardship application and be approved for it, they also have to check everything else. Maybe it's going and talking to the tenants, going and see how that building has been operating. Has there been like 5 evictions right before this hardship application was put in place? Like what is happening? What is the health of that building? And I think that's the part that is missing. I don't think the hardship application in itself is wrong, because I believe, and me and Anna have spoken about this so many times, I believe rent control buildings cannot sustain themselves, not with the rent, not with the rent that they're paying, but there has to be another way.
And I am pro landlord, and I'm not a big fan of rent control buildings.
Yeah.
For reasons like this, like they don't motivate the landlord to invest in the building. But having said that, while there is rent control and you want to buy a rent control building, if you want to buy it, you got to be willing to sustain it. This story of putting fish and kicking people out and like this is insane on every level. I think we need to better look at rent control. We need to protect people that really need the rent to be controlled. I also believe, like, if you're making a boatload of money and you inherited a building, an apartment that's like $500, and you're making $250,000 a year, that's abuse of the rent control, because there's somebody else who needs that, right? So not everything is fair, but the abuse that we're seeing from slumlords is unquestionable, undeniable, and needs accountability at the highest level.
So, I mean, as far as rent control, I agree, right? It's needed. I think the system right now, it's broken, and they keep, every time they try to fix it, I think they go from one extreme to another. And it's like, how do we actually sustain a rent control building when the rents can't go up as much as market rent, but the taxes go up, the water goes up, the appliances go up, like all of these things are still going up. So is it a matter of, hey, city, you really want affordable housing or rent control? Can their taxes be frozen? Like, what is it that the city can do in place than having the tenant themselves pay more rent? Or is it, an organization like ourselves, Fair Housing Action Network, that we run the building, or only moving forward, nonprofits can buy it. If a rent control building is not doing what they're supposed to do, right? Like, to whom much is given, much is required. If you don't have the right
intention.
Yeah, if you don't have the right intentions, if you don't know how to manage a building like this, maybe you shouldn't buy a building like this. And so it's a matter of, who can buy these buildings? Should it be a nonprofit? Should it be, an owner who went through a class and got certified and now you know exactly what to expect? Should it be vouchers? Like, what is it?
Or should it not be LLCs?
Exactly.
Maybe it should be a person who discloses their name, their full name,
definitely,
as the owner of the LLC, and use the LLC for its limited liability protections, but don't hide and disappear and create an environment where people can't find who's responsible for a toilet that's leaking, for the roof that's leaking. I think local governments need to take a serious look all of the rent control, like programmings that they have.
Yeah.
Eliminate redundancies, eliminate waste, eliminate any of the fraud, and then tighten up the rest really, really strongly, and look out for those that are vulnerable. So I'm really happy that you guys are stepping up and being voices in an area where, unfortunately, there's not that many loud voices speaking on behalf of people that are suffering. So I want to go into, Anna, your story. You both are friends, right? You met each other years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
But Anna, in your childhood, you've had a similar experience when you were younger in Hoboken. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So we lived in Hoboken before it was what it is today. It did not look like that at all. You'll go back to the piers and, it was asphalt falling apart. None of that was really there. And, at some point, it started to become gentrified and they started raising rents. I remember there was a time that, they were burning buildings down because they couldn't get the tenants out.
Wow.
I remember my dad telling me like one of his friends died in one of those fires.
Oh my God.
And it's similar to what was happening in the Bronx. I think there's a whole documentary about that. I forgot the name of the documentary, but it's similar to that. So like, hey, we can't get the tenants out. Let's burn down a building. Like, I don't know who thought about that, but I don't think it was a good idea. People died and people were displaced. And it's like, if we don't do something in Jersey City, like when does it get to that? Like when is enough enough? So I just feel like these things are being done again to displace people, take people out. And so we had to move. Like they raised the rent so high that my dad couldn't afford it anymore. And we lived on Washington Street, like right across the street from Carlo's Bakery.
Wow.
It was such a nice apartment. It was really big, nice, parks. I remember my grandmother, she would watch us in the summertime. She'll take us to the park. They had like free lunches. They had a pool. It was such a nice, like we were kids. We were like young, 5, 6, 7 years old. It was so nice. Like so many activities.
So it was easy for you to connect with Anna's story of the fish. And this dates back to your childhood. So over 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing it's still happening. It's
still happening. Isn't that crazy? Like,
and
it's still happening. You want to do something
about it. You're a real estate professional yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And so everyone in the real estate industry, I mean, you have to say something when you see something. And we're lucky to have Anna here from the Fair Housing Action Network to be a place we could go to and say, hey, look, I heard there's a problem. Can you guys look into this? Now, you both, before your building problems took place, you both were, I remember this, you're both building a business. But after this experience, you both decided to take your dream of making money through this investment firm and kill your dream pretty much, or refocus your dream or readjust your dream and turn it into a non-for-profit, which is what we're talking about now, the Fair Housing Action Network. Mm-hmm. You took your dream. After seeing that, you're like, whoa. Mm-hmm. You had like an aha moment. What was it? Was it a defining moment in your life?
Yeah, I mean, well, when we were working on New Way, I know that it did come with a lot of prayer, a lot of conversation, and we really wanted to impact neighborhoods. We wanted to help develop neighborhoods, and it came from an honest place, a caring place, but not necessarily an experienced place. And I know that before the issues that I had living in a rent-controlled building, it became increasingly challenging to see myself as a homeowner, which I wanted to be. I wanted to be like a property owner. And I so desperately wanted to be able to afford that. But it was like my big goals of being able to buy property in Jersey City. And I know, Issa, you know that too. It came to you before about it. It just became out of my grasp because of affordability. Like I didn't even have enough money to buy in the area that I wanted to live in. And so once all of those things happened, it was the experience, I would say the God-given experience from my perspective. And then Anna, I would say I definitely want you to share about what happened with you that allowed your heart to change, because it was an actual God-breathed heart change through the experiences that we both had to go through to understand the situation differently.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, and I think like some of the things that we wanted to do with New Way, I mean, those goals are still alive. Like eventually, me and Anna talk about this all the time. Like we would love to build communities. We would love to build affordable housing, right? So that part is still there. But I think one of the things that changed from then to now is we wanted to build wealth. Like it was like, how can we build wealth for ourselves? How can we buy properties for ourselves and make this money and create wealth and change neighborhoods? But again, like the bottom line was like, hey, we want wealth. And then here goes Anna, like going through this process with her building, and then me going through a whole nother process, losing my job. The market is up and down. I've been doing this for so long, real estate. It also came to a point that I start questioning, like, God, there has to be something bigger for me. Like, it just can't be like me just showing houses, and that's fine. And I love that. And I think it's great. But with all the experience that I have and all the knowledge and what God was doing in my heart, I feel like there has to be so much more. And in that time, as she's going again through her battle, like in her rent control apartment, like I almost lost my house because I didn't have enough money. I'm like, how am I going to pay my mortgage? So it was just through all of that. I just believe like, our hearts were being worked in, and somehow, some way, when we met back up, because we put it all on pause, like we couldn't think, like there's so much going on. I think like when we came back together, it was like after everything we've seen, like after what you went through and I went through and all the things that we're seeing, helping people, like something has to come out of it, and it has to help. It has to help. It has to be more than us and outside of ourselves to be able to help the community and be advocates and fight for those who don't have a voice. I
want to commend you for that, because you pretty much took your what is it called, New Way? You took New Way, a for-profit investment company.
Yeah.
And you put it on hold. You push it to the side because you're like, how am I going to go build wealth while I just had this experience? And so many people are having this kind of experiences because people want to build wealth the wrong way. And for me to be silent about it after I personally experienced it. I love how you came together and you put this together. So congratulations on that. I know you needed a chairman of the board for the nonprofit to work properly. And why the heck did you ask me?
I don't know.
Isa. Joking. No, I mean, again, like our relationship, all of our relationship, like go way back, right? We've learned, I think, each other's characters, the way that we work, our hearts. I mean, not only have we worked, in real estate, business, things like that, but we've also worked in ministry. So I think that's important. Like someone's character, someone's morals, values, all of that means more to us than a check, right? And it's not saying like, hey, we're against money, we're against landlords, we're against building wealth. It's none of those things, because I think those things are great and should happen, right, in the right way. It's important that we have the right people. So when we were looking for, a chair, we thought of you. And again, like Anna was saying before, like everything is prayerfully done. There's purpose behind all of this. Because if you stop, then someone else is not going to get the help that they need. So I think that we also know that you operate in that way, and we've seen that. So we were like, let's ask Isa. And so we know that you spoke with Ketty, and we love Ketty.
Yeah. So I serve on several boards, and I'm busy building a powerful real estate company.
Yeah.
Like I love Provident Legacy.
Yeah.
We're opening an office in Ocean City.
Shameful cup city.
I know.
PL. Yeah. Provident Legacy all the way. I'm busy. I'm busy selling real estate. I'm busy helping agents sell real estate. I'm recruiting. I'm opening offices. I'm working with Hannah and Jacob and the team, and we have incredible staff. Like, I don't have time for another board. So I talked to Ketty. Hey, I was asked to chair this board, brand new company. They're going to need a lot of help, etc. And but I'm also a director here. I'm also a trustee there. And then all these other plans that I have going on. But Ketty's like, no, you got to do this for Anna. You got to do this for Anna. So shout out to Ketty. I'm in here because my wife, like, I have the desire to be here on my own, but I don't do things on my own. I love to collaborate with my wife and make sure we're on the same page. So she was all in on this.
Yeah.
And so
we got to give her an award, our first guest.
So shout out to
Ketty Mashavish Award.
Yeah, and look, man, just because I'm involved, I know you guys are the ones running everything, and I trust that your effort, with the day-to-day, you're helping a lot of families. I just want to get behind it. That's all. I just want to see good people doing good things, keep going, not to quit, not to give up. When it gets hard, I hope you could count on me to tell you, like, I got you. We're going to be fine. As we close out the episodes, I do want to ask you to tell us a few stories about what you have been able to accomplish so far. I know there's like a couple of stories you have. Tell us a few quickly about some things you've been able to do already.
So in the short amount of time we've been a nonprofit, we've helped, I would say in the last month, 3 tenants. 2, we were able to get them out of an eviction, to have their cases dismissed. And then 1, we were able to help rehome. And I'll just maybe walk.
And these are not like legit evictions where they deserve to leave because they're not paying.
Yeah, no. These are bad acting landlords who were trying to use the system to displace these tenants specifically.
I clarify that because there are some people who abuse landlords too,
absolutely,
right? They give you a security deposit. They take your keys, they move in, the security deposit bounces, they don't pay rent, they stay there for 6 months. They go after vulnerable landlords, right? Because some landlords get abused heavily, right? When you're talking about evictions, you're not talking about evictions of bad acting tenants.
No.
These are landlords that don't even want to take your rent.
Yeah. And just to clarify, Fair Housing Action Network, we also help landlords as well.
Yeah.
We do.
That's good to know. Tell everybody about that.
Now, granted, and I'll just say this very high level because I know you asked about tenants, or at least the cases, but we have met this month with a landlord who is being abused by their tenant, elderly.
Yeah.
That's good.
Right. And
I'm glad you're covering both sides of the abuse.
We're not
abuse
acting as
could come from either side.
It's abuse.
Right?
It's fair housing, not,
fair housing on either side. So landlord or tenant. So like Anna was saying, we met with a landlord, and just imagine you work all your life. She owns a property in Jersey City. She tries to take care of it. And then she has a tenant who refuses to pay rent, and it's giving her such a hard time. And she was expressing to us, like, she's losing sleep over this. She's losing
money, probably.
Of course.
She's losing. She has a disability. She's not.
Exactly.
She's not able to. And granted, this tenant, unfortunately, a lot of people, they get into these kind of like gray area relationships where, there's no formalities. Maybe there was a lease at one point, but then somebody else moved in. Maybe there was something not in writing. These little details that get people in these, tripped up in these webs of what ends up being a bigger issue down the line. And so not everybody is some rich corporate landlord. Sometimes there's just these people who are individual property owners that also are having these issues of abuse, from the landlord side. And it's really, really terrible.
I appreciate you sharing both sides.
We want to help both sides. So
you recently had 2 really terrible, unfair evictions dismissed.
Correct. So one, I'll say this was a tenant, the last remaining tenant in a 12-unit rent-controlled building. And the history of the building, you can see it through public record. There was a pretty active attempt to get everyone out. So she was the final one. And that building had been on our radar for a while. And this was actually, I would call it, this was a God move. I happened to be in court one day with a different tenant, and over the loudspeaker, they were announcing default cases. They do this announcement. They say, whatever LLC against whatever tenant, default. And so I heard the name on the loudspeaker, and the person that was with me knew that name as well. And we remembered, like, wait a minute, I know her. That's that final tenant from that building.
Yeah.
So the tenant didn't even know that she had an eviction filed against her, because the landlord had tried to evict her several months back. And she got the case dismissed because they had just bought the building, filed an eviction within 3 months, charging her for back rent from 3 years prior during a time that they didn't even own the building. So they were going after her in these different ways. Fast forward, hear her name on the loudspeaker. We call her. She books it to court.
This is great.
And we're sitting there.
Yeah. Like, isn't that amazing?
This was like, not meant to happen that day.
Like,
she didn't even know you existed.
Right.
No, but not only that, she didn't even know she had a court date that day.
Right.
Wow.
You know?
She books it to court. Meanwhile, I'm there with a different tenant.
They probably stole her mail.
Possibly. I mean,
Like,
there's,
they
who
probably
knows?
didn't even send it.
We've seen all kinds of things happen with, the tactics, but we're there. The opposing counsel is also there for this landlord. And so, I happened to be speaking to legal counsel for another case. They were very, very helpful with the information. I could go to them and ask them, hey, what's this? What's that? They can help me legally because I'm an advocate. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so when this tenant arrived to the court, she's like trying to explain her story. Obviously, she's up in arms. She's like, oh my God, look at my invoice. Like, she's trying to figure it all out. I pull up the records on the website, and we're looking, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's this attorney's fee. Like, what is this attorney's fee that's being applied to her eviction? She doesn't owe you anything. She's paid you. I can see it here. So I'm not a lawyer, but I'm talking to opposing counsel, and I'm trying to get him to identify, like, what is this fee? This looks like a fee from that dismissed case. And so he's like, well, what's to say that we can't charge her an attorney's fee? Is there anything in her lease that says we can't? And so as not being an attorney, we had to take that back and process it. But the key, this was the best thing. And this is a testament to the importance of tenants needing a lawyer, needing access. There is a right to legal counsel now that just started in 2026. But this tenant did not have legal representation. And so that lawyer that I was talking to, when he knew that his client was not willing to come to an agreement, meaning like there's nothing we can talk about to undo this eviction that the landlord wants to pursue. The attorney that I was speaking with was like, you know what, if that happens, just find me, I'll represent her. And so I was just like, say less, because when he found out that, okay, no agreement, then she's got a lawyer now. So then that changed his tune. He was like, oh, so you're saying if we don't have an agreement today, that so-and-so is going to represent her? And I said, yes, absolutely. So fast forward, we filed the motion I forget offhand what the exact motion is, but it's basically just undoing the default judgment. And we worked through the details of what happened. We found the discrepancy. We called it out. We laid it out in documentation. And that lawyer was able to get her case essentially dismissed. She didn't even need to go before a judge. We came back the second time around, sat with her in court, dismissed. And so because it was
and
bad.
You don't get paid to do this. You just
I know what these people do. I'm mad.
That's amazing.
I'm angry. No,
Yeah.
I'm joking. I'm not angry, but
so that's that. So there's a lot of questions I have for like, what do you want the audience to do? They hear this story, like, how can they get involved? Can they recommend people that are going through hardship to you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they can definitely reach out to us.
How can they reach you?
So right now they can reach out to us via Instagram, via our website, which is fairhousingactionnetwork.org, or by emailing us at support at fairhousingactionnetwork.org.
Support at fairhousingactionnetwork.org. Okay.
And what we offer is not necessarily, hey, we'll always be able to get you hooked up to a lawyer. There are other organizations that do that. There's amazing organizations out there, like the Waterfront Project, as I mentioned before.
You have good relationships with them, so we
don't have a guarantee of anything for that tenant necessarily to funnel them to, but we do have resources. Meaning, when they come to us, we can help them understand what's going on. we can help them
Yeah.
document their case, basically put together evidence for their defense.
Nice.
And if we see something like what's going on,
Yeah.
then we can say,
This is
hey,
incredible. This
attorney.
Yeah.
the fact you guys are doing this is
Yeah.
I want to see a movie about this one day.
No, I was
You know?
telling Anna, I was like, I feel like we're Olivia Pope. I remember meeting with someone too. Like we literally met with someone at the diner, going and looking through all her paperwork because they were going to evict her as well. And, you know, they're saying she's doing this and that. And she had the court case, I think, on Monday or Tuesday. And we're like, but wait, where's the notice to quit? They didn't even give her any notice to quit. Like, you can't do that. You have to give her time to rectify. And that little piece right there, right, when she went to court, it was like, the judge was like, you can't do that.
Right.
But if she went on her own and didn't realize, and then on top of that, while we're looking at all the paperwork, we're like, wait a minute, this is a rent control building as well. Like, you have even more rights. And then on top of all of that, her landlord is a nonprofit who's doing these things
A
too.
nonprofit.
Yes. We were
What
Yes,
we were
actively
is
running
going-
people out of rent control
Yes,
buildings.
I couldn't
Yes.
believe it.
Wow.
And so that's one of the things me and Anna talk about all the time. Like we went, I went on their website because I always like to go on people's website, look at their missions. I'm like, wow, you guys started off so good, like wanting to help people. Like, let's get affordable housing. But now you're doing what everyone else is doing. Like, why are you doing this?
Wow.
And so that's one of the things we always talk about. It's like, how do we make sure that we never get to that place? Like,
Let me ask you a question. Like, as far as the city is concerned, you talked about, you know, going to judges and lawyers, but what can the city do to
Yeah.
make it easier for tenants to file against slumlords or complain about against them? What
Yeah.
would be your dream ask of
Yeah.
municipalities?
Could I say, and then
Yeah, of course,
because I
sure.
think you asked the question in an interesting way. The dream ask for tenants to be able to file, that is not easy, because right now there are technically ways for a tenant in a rent control building to press charges.
yeah.
Harassment charges, but it's not easy. You have to know who the people are. You can't just press a charge against an LLC. There's a whole rigmarole of things that you need to do in order to even file for anything like that. And it usually doesn't result. Like my landlord, the one I told you about,
Yeah.
he's got active warrants in his name, except they're in his fake name, because that's the name that I knew he was at the time. So there's open warrants for landlord harassment, but he's probably never going to do anything. The city's not going to do anything about that.
And then also, I'm sorry
Well,
to
how
cut
about-
you off.
You know how we
Yeah.
require IDs of the tenants at the time of the lease?
Yeah.
How about we require the landlord
Exactly.
IDs?
So
we know who
that's
they
a state
are.
level. That is a
Yeah.
state level issue. That there are people
I'm
actively
giving you an
working.
opportunity for a dream ask.
Yeah.
So ask.
No,
you
I
never
got you.
know
Oh,
what
yeah.
politicians are watching.
So then, speaking to the activity going on right now at the state level, it would be phenomenal if the state and the cities could cooperate and get some kind of program where these landlords and their management companies, and I say that very specifically, to disclose an accountable party, if not their entire structure in terms of real persons, not LLCs. Not because that means that the law is not going to protect them if somebody slips and falls on their property, but because we need to know who is engaged in these tactics, because it's not just my building. My building was one of many where my landlord was doing that to different people. So it's a network of people. It's a pattern of people. So that LLC thing would be the dream ask, but we have other asks too.
Yeah. And I think, and again, right, like there's nothing wrong with LLCs because again, right, it protects you. If you have a house and someone falls, they can only go after the thing that's in the LLC, right? So it's wise.
And it comes with insurance and all that.
Exactly.
But it limits the liability of the person. You don't go, you slip and fall in front of this building and it's owned by a person. You could go after that person's assets elsewhere, which is why these LLCs help in that situation.
Yeah, and so that's fine. But the thing that we're seeing is they're hiding behind the LLC. So one of the asks is also, right,
So
just
something that was created for good is being misused.
Yes, exactly.
And weaponized to
to hide behind. So I think that one of the asks also is just like they have to show their real IDs and who they truly are when they're buying the property to the lender. I know they do a title search. Like every name that pops up, you literally have to go through the title and say, this is me, this is me, this is not me. You have to show ID. Like why, why don't we do the same thing? Like if you want to buy a property, like when I had to buy my house, I couldn't just not show ID. I needed to show ID, and then I had to mark off in the title, like, this Anna Cologne is me. This Anna Cologne, AKA as Anna M. Cologne is me. This person is not me. Why are we not asking the same from the LLC? Like someone needs to be responsible. Like if you are buying the property and you want to have the LLC, that's fine. Have the LLC, but there's going to be someone who's responsible. We need to know who they are. And if there are any fines, you better make sure that this person who said they're responsible is ready to take the hit if you did something wrong, just as a broker would do for the real estate company.
Yeah. Can I use the last few minutes we have together to talk to business owners that could partner with you and help fund the work that you do? Because I'm realizing here, you're spending a lot of time doing this. You already have full-time jobs and you're doing this. This is like your baby. And you got your 501c3. 501c3. And you're now ready to receive contributions for the nonprofit. Grants for the nonprofit. So if there's any contributors, any grant writers, anyone that wants to be involved in this capacity, specifically in Hudson County, right? The work is starting in Hudson County, but I know you want to take it to across all of New Jersey. How do people connect with you?
Again, reach out to support at fairhousingactionnetwork.org. We would love to have that conversation with anyone that is interested in really getting to the root of this work in a way that's actionable, that's going to have real results. That's not going to just be a lot of talking and ideation, but actual
action.
Action. I love it, guys.
Yeah, I think that we definitely are looking for grant writers because we obviously, we're right now, me and Anna doing the advocacy work. We're doing the behind the scenes, the operations, the building, all of these things. But, we also want to apply for grants for those who are facing these situations. And again,
an attorney.
And not only that, but I know you mentioned something that was so important, right? There are tenants who take advantage, and those are not the ones that we want to go and give a grant to. But those tenants who are facing this thing, like that one lady that Anna was talking about, she didn't even know she had a court date. What happened if she would have gotten evicted? Or what happened if they were to say, no, she does need to pay this 1 month rent and she's not prepared for that? Like, I would love for us to have grants that we can say, okay, we can write a check out to you so that you are not displaced, so that you do not become homeless because of these egregious things that these bad acting landlords are doing. Slumlords. Yeah. So we want to be able to also help in that capacity. Even homeowners, right? Homeowners who lost their job or are one paycheck away from being displaced because their car broke down. These homeowners who may be displaced, like I went through that and I know how important it is. Like you work so hard to be able to buy a property and your car breaks down and now you don't have the monthly mortgage. But prior to that, you were always paying your mortgage. You're keeping up, with the things that need to be fixed in your home if you have another apartment or things like that. So we want to be able to also, let us be able to write a check out, and catch you up. So just writing, like having grants for that.
You guys are doing all the right things, and I love it. And if this issue speaks to you, get involved. If you can't do it economically, if you're not a grant writer, if you don't have a contribution that you can make economically, there's other ways you can get involved. Support at fairhousingnetwork.org.
Fair Housing Action Network.
Action Network, sorry.
No worries.
fairhousingactionnetwork.org. Support at fairhousingactionnetwork.org. Thank you so much, Anna Bassett, Anna Cologne. Thank you guys for starting this incredible work. I'm honored to be part of it. And let's help some people out.
Let's do it.
Let's go.